Welcome to the Leader to Leader podcast. I'm your host, Susan Spears. Our guest today is Dr. Tashika Griffith. She is the president of Germanna Community College. Tashika, welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me today.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you here. For our listeners, if you look up Germanna Community College here in the Northern Virginia, kind of Central Virginia area, you'll learn about the college, and we will talk about it some today. But let me tell you a little bit more about Dr. Griffith, because she's new to our community. 100 and how many days now?
121 days.
So 121 days as of the time of this recording, and it's been 121 fantastic days for our community. She is Germanna's 7th president, and she, in her previous lives, has served as provost and chief campus officer at Clearwater campus at St. Petersburg State College in St. Petersburg, Florida. Now, that's where she was most recently since February of 2022. And I like just saying Clearwater. It's just beautiful. So just the name alone is fantastic. And I know she's got many stories about her time there in St. Petersburg College. She'd been there in different roles since 2016, so she really cut her teeth over time there, but previously also served as Associate Dean of Students at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, Assistant Dean of Students at the University of Miami, Florida, and Director of the Office of Multicultural Affairs at the University of Scranton, PA, and in the Career and Multicultural Center at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, Virginia. Those are all super interesting and stories, right there in each one part of that journey. And in addition to those years in teaching positions and different positions in colleges and university, she also taught public high school and served in the University Police Department at Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton, Florida. I have some friends down there. That's pretty cool. And so we're just thrilled with everything that you're bringing to the table, coming to our community, and a little bit more about her professional certification. She's earned her professional certificate at Harvard University, a BA at Florida Atlantic University, and a master's degree at Virginia Tech, and her EDD. That's the CRIM. That's the one at Northeastern University in Boston. I love all of this East Coast. Right? Yeah. It's just great. And what a story and what an amount of interesting adventures I'm sure you have along that leadership journey as we share that. And when we met and talked a little bit, you also talked about being involved in the communities and a few of your Chamber of Commerce friends and so forth in different communities. So, wow, people, are you ready for this? Are y'all ready to hear from Dr. Griffith today? Because it's going to be awesome. All right, so I just gave the quick background, but I'm going to just open right up and say, tell us about your leadership journey.
Well, thank you again for having me here. I'm very excited to share and talk today. My leadership journey, as you kind of encapsulated, is pretty far-reaching.
Yes.
I have to start off by saying I came here as an international student from the Bahamas, born and raised. So I was totally unfamiliar with higher education in the United States. What I knew, though, was that education provides opportunity. So
yes.
Coming from a third world country, it was important for me to have opportunities to help and empower myself and also my family. So I came here as an international student at Florida Atlantic University, and it was life-changing. It was there that I not only learned how to navigate higher education, but I was fortunate enough to really engage with some amazing staff, amazing faculty and administrators.
Makes such a difference.
And it did. And they poured into me. They helped me understand purpose with education, because I was a little lost, as most early college education students are, in figuring out what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, what major I wanted to pursue. And they helped me really, really thoughtfully think through that. And the only thing they asked in return for that was to pay it forward.
Nice.
So as I worked through the ranks at FAU and obtained my degree in English, I thought I have to do something with this degree, because that's what was really the purpose of obtaining it. So I said, well, I'm going to be a high school teacher. So
Nice.
I left FAU after working some odd and end jobs as a student employee, and I became a teacher, K through 12, specifically 10th grade in Broward in Florida. And it was amazing. I loved the students. I loved my time with them. But the more time I spent with them, the more I realized that a lot of the 10th grade students were at this juncture where they had to decide, what college should I be looking at?
Yeah.
What majors should I be, thinking about and exploring? So it took me back to my experience, and I started wondering who was going to help them the way that folks helped me. So after that, I decided to jump back into the world of higher education. And my very first boss in student activities, he happened to be visiting Boca again.
Oh.
He was working at Virginia Tech. And he said, let's have lunch. So during lunch, he said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to get back into higher education. And he goes, Virginia Tech has a great master's program in higher education administration. You should check it out. And if you're interested, I'd certainly be willing to write you a recommendation letter. And he did just that. And a year later, I was accepted with a 100% full scholarship.
My
To
goodness.
Virginia Tech.
Wow.
So I packed my bags from Boca Raton, Florida,
Yes.
and drove to Blacksburg.
Okay,
Virginia.
well, you had the energy, man, to
Then
take
I
that
had
drive.
So I found myself in Blacksburg, Virginia.
Yeah.
And I loved being at Virginia Tech.
Okay.
It was so different, obviously, than Florida.
Of course.
Different type of beauty.
Yes.
Learning different kind of cultural norms
Uh-huh.
in the Commonwealth. So it was amazing. And it really helped me with the love of higher education
Okay.
and how to actually operationalize it as an administrator.
Right.
So when I graduated from Tech, I was asked to stay on board for another semester to help with some research at the institution. So I did that. And then I landed a job at the University of Scranton in Pennsylvania.
Okay, so you just hopped up a little bit north then.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did. I hopped
Uh-huh.
up just a little bit north. And that was an amazing experience
Yeah.
being in Scranton at the time. The Office was the thing then, the TV show.
Oh.
Was pretty popular.
Okay.
So I was there for that stint and met some of the celebrities
yes.
that were on the show. So
Oh, that's cool.
it was a great time. The students were amazing. And I ended up getting married during that time.
All right.
Yeah, my husband was the assistant men's basketball coach there, actually, too. So
Okay, so you didn't know that was going to happen.
did have no clue.
Yep, there it came.
But again, this is a shout out to colleges and universities. You never know if you're going to find your mate and your partner there. as
Right.
I did. So yes, higher education has given a lot back to me. But after I was there in that role for about 5 years, I started getting the bug and wanted to kind of advance.
Yeah.
And a job opportunity presented itself at this place called the University of Miami. And I said, wouldn't it be nice to go back to Florida?
She's headed to the U.
I'm headed to the U.
Love it.
So it was there that I cut my teeth in really, really generalist, what they call generalist opportunities. So dean of students, I was a liaison to athletics.
Oh, my
Worked
goodness.
as a co-advisor for the graduate students. I mean, I just did a lot of work there.
Yeah, that's great.
And we had a lot of fun, And one of my previous bosses at the University of Scranton left to become the vice chancellor at the University of Tennessee. And he called me up about 2.5 years
Wow.
of being at Tech and also being at UM. And he said, I'd like to have you back on my team. What do you think about joining me at the University of Tennessee? And I said, okay.
I'm just going to float over here.
Sure.
Float up.
I left the Canes to become a Vol, and it was a great time at the University of Tennessee. Did a lot of work. I did a lot of crisis work in higher education, which was different for me.
That is.
So I created the crisis management program for their division in student affairs at the University of Tennessee. Worked with counseling, mental health for students, and kind of navigated with them how to successfully, finish and complete the university. So it was a very, very meaningful, impactful role. Given that we know we have a lot of students that deal with mental health issues. So getting to pour into them in that way and then watch them walk the stage at graduation.
Yeah, it's
was
very
It
meaningful.
was a different level of fulfillment.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And so after that, where did the journey go?
The journey then landed in Tampa. My in-laws are in Tampa, and my husband said, "Hey, I want to head back home to Tampa." So we went back to Tampa, and an opportunity presented itself at St. Petersburg College. And this is a different professional leadership juncture that happened at that moment. I had only been working at Research One large universities. So St. Petersburg College was the first state college, or community college that I'd ever worked. So it was a very, very different experience when I moved there, because what I realized was my love for four-year institutions certainly was strong. But when I got to St. Petersburg College, I realized that four-year institutions, they choose their students. At community colleges, the students choose us. And that's a big difference. So there are no ACT scores or SAT scores that kind of divide and see whether or not there's selective admissions. It's open admissions.
Interesting.
So you have a mix of adult learners, traditional students, fresh out of high school. You have senior citizens who want to upskill or just have some kind of, enrichment of their mind.
Sure.
And that was fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Because I was only used to the traditional straight out of high school energy of the students. So as you noted in my bio, I was at St. Petersburg College for 9 years of learning and growing and creating opportunities and initiatives at the college. And it was a very fulfilling time as well, just in a different way.
Wow. Okay. So I will digress for a moment, which I'm known to do. I am just feeling football all over the place on these. I cannot stand it. You touched a few of my favorites that I love, and probably different years or moments in time. But I'm in love with those guys that played at the U and did the whole thing back in the day. Yes. A huge Michael Irvin fan. I'm not going to deny it. And those other folks. It's just a fascinating story about everything from that time, and then how everything that's happened there and their recent success. And then you said Tampa, so I have to mention Tom Brady, and I'll leave it alone because you were there.
I was.
Oh, my Lord. Maybe I'll bring that back up later.
He definitely brought a great energy to the city.
Yeah, it's so, super cool. It's how you know what, sports is a whole other world, and not exactly where we're going today, but those things can tie people together and make you, whatever it takes to make you learn or grow or find out about communities or teams and all of that. So I think there's, all joking aside, there's a whole lot there.
There is.
And my husband would be mad if I didn't mention the Vols because he's from Tennessee. And then everybody, Blacksburg, obviously Virginia Tech and everything there. So I'm not going to ask you to pick a favorite.
No,
I mean, because you've been in too many superstar places.
Yes, please.
Wow, though, I bet you've enjoyed immersing yourself in part of those different cultures where that was a important part, and then being right here right now, so there's different focuses, now here. So athletics is something we care about. Being here in this community and with Germanna, you're seeing some of it through our partners at the University of Mary Washington right now. But our focus is in a direction around the workforce and so forth. So that's incredible too. Your journey is so interesting, and that everything you've talked about, there's this layer of, okay, you're excellent because you wouldn't have these opportunities. So you said at the beginning, education provides opportunity.
It does.
So you said, I value that. I'm going after that. You chose that, which is incredible. Everybody can't choose that, but you had the mental buildup, the tenacity, the ability to go forward with that, and then for people to see you. So I commend you for that. That's incredible. And then opportunity, when it presented itself, you weren't afraid. So talking about your leadership style is where I want to go. Has it changed over those years, or what is it about you that makes you so open to change and opportunity?
Change represents growth to me.
Yeah.
Even through the hard times. I think change can be very scary for most people, but I look at it as an adventure. I think for me, once you've moved from your hometown, there is quite a bit of fear that drives you. But for me, it's exciting because I never know what I'm going to encounter. but I know that whatever it is, I can achieve what my mind has set out to do. So yeah, change for me has been exciting. The growth happens in the change. So what you said earlier really resonates because I'm not the same leader that I was, 25 years ago when I first,
Right.
had these opportunities. When I first became a leader professionally, I thought that a leader looked a certain way.
Oh, of course.
And you had to be charismatic and all the things, and
Yes.
the knowledge keeper, and you had to know everything and just always be prepared and always be focused and never be vulnerable. And as I've gotten older and the more positions and places that I've gone, I've experienced different types of leaders, and I have evolved into a different leader. So if you were to ask me 25 years ago what type of leader, I would probably say, I'm democratic leader or,
Yeah.
But now it's like the answer is it depends on the situation I'm in. That's the type of leader that I am.
Well, and that ties to the word flexibility.
Exactly.
And flexibility in 2026, as we talk about leadership, flexibility and resilience are really with the grounding of the foundations of things like integrity and so forth. But that's really the most important aspect of leadership, is to be able to be agile. We've had no choice in our society,
Yes.
but to not just be agile because you have no choice, but to kind of lead it, to lead change. And I know we all got tired of hearing that term on how, we just are going to pivot.
Yeah.
Right? That was a big thing a couple of years ago with change on pivoting. But really to lead change, to be an effective decision maker, and to evolve. When you said I wasn't the same, who is? But in today, also in 2026, we also reflect on that. And to your point about being vulnerable or having authenticity, we learned that that's an important component of leadership now that would have probably benefited a lot of leaders over many decades if it had been allowed. Yeah, and we have permission for that. Now, it doesn't mean we complain about, morning when we wake up feeling bad, right? It's hot in here. No. Nobody wants to know your chair was uncomfortable or the chicken was rubber. Or that you didn't like the centerpiece at a table. They want to know your thoughts on the content and how it relates to your life journey. And I heard that loud and clear from some of the students last week. We're for our listeners, we're talking today in the middle of May of 2026, and this will air in another week or two. But last week there were a couple of introductory community events that representing the chamber. I had the honor of attending and getting to know Dr. Griffith more in the community. But what they did that was fantastic is they had a few students that were there to tell their stories. And it was very meaningful and powerful because she hasn't been here but barely over 100 days. And they were talking about the impact she's already had on their individual lives. So you were told to pay it forward and you did it. You're just doing amazing stuff.
Thank you. This is purpose work. That's how I really look at leadership. It's purposeful. It's meaningful. It's not a title. It's not power. So again, going back to what I thought originally, that leadership was power and it was title and it was authority. As I became a leader, and I would also say the times taught me this as well. COVID and everything that we've been through as a country, as a nation, has taught me there is a need to put the human first. You're a leader of people. You're not a leader of things. Or, these people that you lead have feelings. They have family. They're coming to you to support a vision, a mission. But they're people doing that. So you need to understand the people in order to lead. There are moments when everything's not going to be black and white and decisions are made because people and feelings around change and around growth. So for me, as I've evolved, I've really been very intentional about being an empathetic leader and putting myself in someone else's shoes and say, how would this impact this group? How would this impact faculty? How would this impact staff? How would this impact students? So that's been important for me because, again, I don't know if 25, 30 years ago that would have been my intentional thought. It would have organically, within that framework, I would have gotten there. But now as a leader, it's intentional and it's at top of mind, not at the end when the challenges arise. And that's the difference.
Yeah. And I think that we've learned some of that the hard way.
Exactly.
In that period of time from when you started out, you spent time with crisis management, you said in Tennessee. But that became necessary because of some of the things that happened out here in the world that changed some of that landscape. Particularly, I think of two places that you've been that those areas were impacted greatly by some of the violence on campuses, Virginia Tech and then Broward, in that area, with the high school there. It was high school.
It was high school.
Devastating. And how on earth, certainly when I came through, we had our own little teenage drama. We didn't have life and death. And so kids today and adult learners, all of them are learning in a different playing field. And so you coming out as this calm presence, this there for you leader, is why I think you're able to be the right person at the right time, making a difference in communities.
Thank you. I understand, based on my crisis management time, I understand now, and a lot of us now it's pretty common. But when you're thinking about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, there wasn't this common understanding that students came to us with more needs than just academic.
Goodness, that is so true.
We were not, very open or knowledgeable about, housing insecurity, food insecurity, child care needs, transportation needs, mobility. We didn't really have common language around how to support students holistically. In higher education 25 to 30 years ago, we were thinking about in-classroom support, tutoring, and, learning, teaching and learning, and pedagogy. And the focus wasn't really on what happens outside of the classroom. How do we supplement teaching students what they need to learn in terms of soft skills in the workforce, as you mentioned earlier?
Mm-hmm.
How do you prepare your interpersonal skills? How do you prepare to be an effective leader at work? We were just focused on the theoretical applications of learning.
Yeah.
And it's evolved. So now, again, thinking about the student as a whole person, you have to think about what just doesn't happen in the classroom. How do we develop you as a leader? How do we make sure that you're engaged, in being a part of clubs and student government associations? So we're leaning in now within the past few years to understand that it takes all of those resources in addition to academics to make an effective kind of student that can contribute successfully to communities that they reside in. And that wasn't common. So we have evolved. Higher education has evolved to accept the whole student and support students holistically. So a lot of my evolution as a leader has come with those lessons when I engage with students and ask them, what's going on? What are the needs? I take that back to my faculty. I take that back to my staff and say, here are what the students are saying. Because guess what? If we're not tuned into that, then they're not going to finish.
Yeah, that's true.
And we've talked about access in higher education, especially in the early 80s, late 80s and early 90s. We talked about access, getting students in, students in.
Yep.
And now what I talk about as a leader is we can get students in all day long, but they have to finish what they start. So for me, it's getting them in and getting them through, getting them out so they land in a job, a high wage job, right? Wage sustainable job for themselves and their families, because students don't come to us with the dream of being poor. They come to us because they understand that credential that they're going to earn will change their lives. That's the opportunity. And it's life-changing.
So true.
And it changes generational wealth for themselves and their families. So for me, I've started as a leader talking to my team about reverse engineering. Think about the end goal in mind first, and let's work backwards. So again, understanding the whole needs of students, we're doing that deliberately because we know we need them to finish and graduate and get that degree and go out into the community.
So I'm adding visionary to my list and strategic. I think we're hitting a lot of good stuff here. Yeah, it's just incredible the way as I'm listening to you, I'm having so many thoughts. Obviously, when you're talking with someone, you have your own experiences in your mind, and I think a lot about my dad, who is retired in '97 as public school superintendent, right here in Fredericksburg. And whenever I have an educator here on the program, I can't help but mention him. He's ever-present influence in my life. He's 87 years old today. The world has changed so much since his journey, and he loves to tell the stories of it. But the first thing you said on education provides opportunity was the same for him. We'll talk about that on another day, but he came from a family with nothing and said, education's my answer. And so there's many of the same principles, but the landscape has changed so much. And identifying that and saying this whole group of people and life happenings is going on outside of the classroom, and it's a large percentage. It may have been a smaller percentage, what I call back in the day, and that may have been what drove it not being, I don't know, paid as closely attention to. You have it's got to just beat you in the head. You have no choice but to pay attention to it today, and so forth. So being able to do that day in and day out, it sounds like it energizes you. But what challenges you in that?
Well, the challenge is from an empathetic standpoint as a leader, when you think about everyone, what you realize is you're not going to be able to please everyone.
Yes, of course.
And that's challenging. It's challenging because as a leader, you're 30,000 feet above and you're seeing things in a different way. And as you are rallying your team around a vision, folks have agendas, right? And that's not a bad thing, you know. Someone comes in just thinking of the slice because that's what's in their mind.
Yes.
Their job is to do this. So their agenda is to get this across the stage, right? And a lot of folks don't understand, as leaders, we can't just look at your slice. We have to look at the entire pie, if you will, and make decisions according to that 30,000 feet level. So I think challenging for me sometimes as a leader is because I'm so in tune with folks, I want to make sure that everyone feels there's a win-win for them. And then I realize pretty early, no. Sometimes you're just not going to get your way. You're just not going to get, your agenda is not going to be the priority. And I think that's hard for people. I was engaged in a conversation yesterday with someone on the team, and they were concerned because they just wanted something done, and I had to remind them we have to have an open mind. And what I do when I'm faced with a challenge like that with my team, I remind them that we all have the common goal. The goal is, again, for our students to complete and get that degree. Now, the way in which we obtain that goal, you may not agree with it, right? But you have to trust that as a leader that I'm going to get us to that point, even if it doesn't look like the way you think we should get there. I just want you to focus on the fact that I'm committed to getting us there. So that buy-in sometimes can be a little bit challenging when folks are very, very, I would say, rigid on wanting things their way and the way they want it.
Yeah, and so when you're in leadership, you have to look at that whole picture and how to connect the dots and bring those people on board as best you can, right? And so it's exhausting sometimes because it means more meetings, more communication, right? And more time spent when you're just, let's get to the task. But if we skip that step,
it can blow up. I said to someone the other day, again, a little over 100 days in the role, and folks were talking about, asking me my vision, and I think it was day 10. So when I arrived in January, someone said, "What's your vision for Germanna?" And I said, well, I'm 10 days in. I have a vision. I said, but I don't think it would be fair for any one of you if I just come in and exact my vision 10 days in.
Yeah.
I said, give me an opportunity to learn, to listen, to assess, and let's build a vision together. Let's co-create the vision. Because if I come in and I just say, this is what I want on the 10th day, without understanding the community we're serving,
Right.
without understanding what your needs are, how you prioritize those needs, understanding what the students' needs are. And then I just say, here's my vision, and operationalize it. Go forth and do. You're going to be probably excited for the first hour, and then that excitement is going to turn to resentment because you're going to start doing this and going, wait a minute, why are we doing it this way? And that's not right. And that's not. That's why I need all of us to co-create. The other part of this, and you talk about me being a strategic leader, and that certainly is accurate. There's accountability involved with vision. There is let me repeat that.
Yeah.
There is accountability involved in vision. People get very starry-eyed and excited because it's vision. It's vision. Vision involves change.
Yes.
And as we talked about, some people view change as scary. And then weird folks like me view change as growth. So again, there's time that I have to take for all of us to be engaged in how we're going to operationalize the vision. Because if I create it on my own, the challenge for me is if it doesn't go right, then everyone points and says, well, you came up with it, so it's your fault. But if we co-create that vision, then we're all accountable for the various aspects and components of that vision. And that's a good thing. So I'm purposeful in talking to my team about, it's not just my vision. This is our vision. This is what we're committing for our students, and they're good. So we need to do this together.
Together, stronger together, they say.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then, as they're figuring out who is this leader? Who is this lady? Is it okay for me to step that toe forward and say what I want? They're people like that. And then as they do, and then you listen, even to your point, if what somebody asks for or demands doesn't come to fruition, but you can explain and share, it often just being heard makes all the difference in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that has the whole, everything to do with leadership and working with people.
It's relational.
Yep.
Leadership is relational.
Yep.
I mean, who are you leading? You're leading people.
Yep.
You have to build relationships. One of the best things that someone told me recently this year was, before I ask you for your hand for work, I got to tap into your heart. And I never thought about it that way. And they said, yeah, you're asking a lot of people. You have to spend some time understanding the people and what motivates them, because that's meaningful. And it's true. It's, in the short time that I've been in the role as president, I've had numerous faculty and staff send me messages and approach me and say, thank you, for asking me what I think the priority should be for the college. What direction should we be thinking about for our students and for the future of Germanna? I don't think I've ever been asked that. So now we're engaging in meaningful dialogue, and folks feel as if they're all at the table and they have a part in what's at stake for us moving forward.
That's just great. Well, I know that those moments are humbling as well as fulfilling, just the best. I like to call things like when somebody stops you in the hall or sends you a note to tell you that, just the moments, because they build and they keep you going. They sustain you, If somebody were to come to you tomorrow and say, I want to do what you do. I'm just starting out, but I don't know how to get there. What kind of advice would you give them?
Oh, that's a great question. I've actually had this question posed to me quite a few times. What I always tell people is think about your why. Think about your why for the reasons you just said, because you're going to have some very tough days ahead of you as a leader that you're going to have to remind yourself, why did I sign up for this again? Why am I doing this again? So my advice for anyone that's really wanting to start their leadership journey and they're trying to figure out, how to do that effectively, start with your why. Ask yourself, why do I want to do this? And it's intentional when I say that, because sometimes people end up thinking and saying, I want to make more money. I want to have power. I want the title. And
they say that out loud?
Yeah, some people have said that.
I know.
And I said, well, you may or may not last very long if those are your only whys. Dig in a little bit deeper and figure out your why. Is the why to serve? Okay. Serve in what capacity? Serving for what end goal? So I dig a little deeper, but it always starts with the why. Why do you want to be a leader? And what impact, after you land on your answer of the why, what impact will your talents, your skills, and your experience add to that leadership? What are you wanting to give back as a leader? What do you want your legacy to be as a leader? So again, I ask questions, very reverse engineering, thinking of the end in mind and then working backwards.
As you look back at, visualize yourself right at the beginning of that journey, just starting out, a new international student, folks pouring into you, you learning, the world is your oyster. And here you are today, and there's much more still ahead of you. What would you say about the mindset of that person? Could that person have ever seen today or beyond today?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I always chuckle a little bit when, folks are like, did you know at a young age that you would be? Absolutely not. In fact, I chuckle sometimes, at my life in a good way, because I never would have thought that, 30 years ago, coming into this country, that I would be a president of a college.
Amazing.
I didn't see that for myself. I just knew my why was I wanted to help other people obtain educational freedom and opportunities, because I had a very compelling moment in my life with my mother. I'm the youngest of 3 girls, and my mom had us all by the time she was 20 years old. And when
goodness.
Well, when you think about it, in the 60s and 70s, that wasn't really unheard of. That was kind of the norm, big families very early on. And she sacrificed a lot for us.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And she had aspirations of, being an accountant and a CPA. And, she had us, and she never regretted it. But one of the things she told me, according to her words, she realized that I was intellectually advanced at a very young age. Now, this is my mom, so moms, I thought she was just being nice, but she said, no, I realized when you were younger that you were really smart. And she said to me, education is something that no one can take away from you.
That's right.
When you have it. She said, it's the only thing that's like that. And she said, think about it. Someone can steal your money, they can steal your cash, your car, you name it. But once you get education, no one can take that learning away from you. It's there. It's embedded up here. And I that landed, and I've kept it with me. So I just knew, going back to your question, what I knew was I wanted to pay that forward, and I wanted to support other people in getting an education and getting something that's invaluable that no one can take away from them, that opens up all the doors of opportunity. I just didn't realize it would look like this in this role at this time.
Understood. And as we start to wind down, that just makes me remember, I usually ask folks if there's a particular mentor or two that you'd want to shout out that's really influenced that journey.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, that'd be a long list of people. But I want to start out with my mom.
Yeah.
I think people think leadership looks a certain way again, and it's really corporate or formal. But there are informal leaders when you really think back about folks that influence you. And so my mom would be my number one influence in terms of leader. She led the family. She's the matriarch. She taught us life skills. I mean, everything that you think about you should get from an effective leader, I got from my mom. So she would be my influence. I would say Dr. Eric Newble. He is the assistant vice chancellor at the University of North Carolina, and he was my first boss as a student worker, as an international student. He was my very first boss, and he's the gentleman I referred to earlier that left Florida Atlantic University to become the director of student activities at Virginia Tech. And he was the one that came back and said, I'm going to write you this recommendation letter because you need to do this. So he was a huge leadership influence on me. And I'd also say Melissa Shivers, Dr. Melissa Shivers. She's the vice president for student affairs at The Ohio State University. And she was my boss at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville.
We had to go to the Ohio as well. Go Blue. Oh, I'm sorry. Carry on.
So she played an instrumental role
Yes.
in leadership as well as a woman. She just really educated me in terms of some of the very unique experiences that women leaders go through.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the first time that someone had kind of walked me through and helped me navigate that world, and seeing it from that lens.
Interesting.
So she was an influential leader.
Yeah. These people believed in you.
They did. And then last but certainly not least, I would have to say Dr. Tanja Williams. She is the current president at St. Petersburg College, where I just left.
Okay.
And St. Petersburg College is the first state college in the state of Florida. It was established in 1927.
Okay.
And so they're celebrating their centennial year next year.
Yes.
And she was the first African-American female president that the college has ever had. 9 years ago, she was brought into that role. So she certainly has served as a influence and a motivator in my life as well.
I'm sure she hated to see you go, but at the same time supported and lifted.
Yes, she is very excited about my inauguration next year, and she said nothing's going to stop me from being there.
I'll be looking for these people. Like, I know who that one, I know who they are. I'll be fangirling them from the side. They won't know who I am. That's wonderful. What an abundant life.
It's been a blessing. It's been a blessing. Like I said, it's not what all of them have in common. It was never about them and their ego. It was about pouring into someone else to make sure that there are leaders and other great leaders beyond their time that can continue the work of serving others. So that's what always impressed me about each of those leaders that I just mentioned. They're very selfless in their giving of knowledge, of wisdom, of mentorship. And sometimes that can be rare because as leaders, sometimes it can be very lonely. Yeah. And you're navigating in a new state or a new environment, and you just want to make sure, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? Can you be my sounding board? I'm thinking about this and this strategy, and can you help me? And they've all just always stepped up to stand in the gap to say, we're going to help you.
Standing in the gap. Amazing. Love it. Great. Again, before we close, I said I would ask you a favorite quote. You've dropped a lot of things that I could consider your quotes, but tell me what you consider a favorite quote you can share with our listeners.
My favorite quote is, "The best way out is through." And that, actually, I have it in my office, and I carry it with me whenever I move and go into different roles and spaces. The best way out is through. And I talk to a lot of young people today because they want to rush through to get to next. Yeah. And we were like that, right? Growing up, I can't wait to leave this house. And then I can't wait to graduate college. I can't wait to land that job. And what I've been encouraging young folks to do now is to be in that moment and stop trying to rush through life. Because there's always going to be the next that you're going to try to aspire to. You're going to aspire to. It's always going to be something. And on the flip side of that, with challenges, there's always going to be something. And people sometimes try to avoid the challenge. Yeah. But the best way through the challenge is going through it, not avoiding it head on. That's where you get those muscles. That's where you get that growth. So a lot of folks look at us as leaders now, and they just want to get to where we are now. Yeah. But they have no idea what we had to go through to get to now.
I'll just sit with that. That's terrific. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yes, I definitely want to talk about the fact that Germanna Community College is a special place. Yes. And I shared this recently at my reception. I was talking to a lot of our community partners and friends about what a gem Germanna is. Mm-hmm. But what I want to remind folks and our listeners is that, we're not a hidden gem. Yeah. I think there is a stereotype. I know there is. I certainly was guilty of it before I came into the community college world, where you thought of community college as the last resort. It was where you went to if you couldn't get into university or if you didn't have money or there was just so many negative stereotypes. And I think it still lingers. And what I want to remind folks is we're not the last resort. We're the best resort. We are an affordable option an opportunity for you, no matter what stage you are in your life, whether it's fresh out of high school, adult learner wanting to upskill and get a certificate to get that raise, to get that promotion. We are it. And the fact that we're able to provide that education in a smaller setting, right, with faculty that you can literally reach out and touch in terms of, getting their knowledge and of the content and courses, having that small engagement, much smaller than a 4-year institution. And that's not knocking them. There are sister institutions, but we just provide it at a level for students who can gain the skills and the foundation so they can guarantee if and when they transfer to a 4-year institution that they're going to make it because they had 2 years of learning what it's like to be an effective student, right? A successful student. So I just want to remind everyone that Germanna, we're very proud to offer those opportunities for our students. And we're very proud of what we have given for 55 years to the institution. And we're excited for the next 55 in the area. We are celebrating on May 14th, our commencement.
Yeah.
So earlier I talked about the end being at the beginning. It's my favorite time of year because we get to celebrate this milestone with students. We get to celebrate, and parents and families get to celebrate and see their babies walk across that stage and know that anything's possible, right? So we get to celebrate that on May 14th. And then we also get to celebrate purpose and people with our faculty and staff. As a new president, one of the new initiatives that I've developed is Germanna Connect Day. So on October 16th, we will be celebrating our faculty and staff and the employees that pour in to all of our students. So for local businesses, please, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love for you to sponsor, help us and support us by coming out, and hosting a table where you share and market your business to our employees. So we're excited to celebrate, and we want to bring the community in different ways for our students, our faculty, and our staff.
Oh, that sounds excellent. For the October 16th event, do they just go on the website to find out more?
Yes, you can go on our website and we can get that information to you. There's a QR code that's going to be on that website. So if you want to learn more, you can certainly do that. But yes, we're encouraging as many local businesses as possible to reach out so we can help you promote your business as well with employees. And we're talking over 900 employees at the college, part-time and full-time. So you have a wide range audience for you to promote and share your business.
Yeah, it's terrific. And I know you can also check on the chamber marketing platforms that we have for our members. We have put this out on already, and we will continue to do so to make sure that all those connections are there. Germanna Community College is a great partner with the Fredericksburg Regional Chamber of Commerce in many, many ways. Pretty much everything that we do, Germanna is a partner with, and that's just been terrific. Between our workforce programs, our Leadership Fredericksburg program, our advocacy work, and our networking, all the different things that chambers do in the community are critical components that we're bridging that gap as well, connecting back to the students, the future workforce, and your existing workforce that's here today. So
absolutely, and we're so grateful to you and the chamber for all of the work and the investment you've done. Yeah,
it's terrific. Just partners.
Yes.
Yes, so we're excited about our new partner. Germanna is a long-term partner and the new leader at the helm, Dr. Tashika Griffith here, the president of Germanna Community College. It's been a pleasure spending time with you today.
Thank you. Same. Really appreciate you.
Yes, thank you for being here. On behalf of the Fredericksburg Regional Chamber, this has been the Leader to Leader podcast. And we have been thrilled to sit down again with the new president, as of right now, the new president. But this will land on our platform and be there forever. Germanna Community College here in 2026. Dr. Tashika Griffith, president of Germanna Community College. Take a listen to this podcast and beyond so you know all about the great things happening with leaders in the Fredericksburg, Virginia region. Thanks for your time today. We'll see you next time.